I realized that there was a lot of pain that I actually hadn't allowed myself to feel in totality that was blocking my ability to experience the ecstasy that's available in this life. So I went there. I allowed myself to go there and feel my way through every moment. You know, in this moment I'm feeling angry, in this moment I'm feeling happy, in this moment I feel like my heart's expanding with love. Allow myself to feel that. You know, a lot of us feel that love and we go, oh, that's too scary, I'm going to push it down.
Yes.
In this moment I'm feeling sad. Okay, I feel hurt right now. Oh, now I feel overwhelmed. The kids are going nuts. Allow myself to feel that overwhelm. Like, that's what we're here to do. Emotions are energy in motion, and the more that we give that energy motion, the easier it passes through, right? But so many of us are like, I feel angry. How do I get rid of that? I feel sad. How do I get rid of that? I'll go and exercise. I'll have a coffee. I'll have a drink of wine. I might have a cigarette, right? We're like constantly trying to bypass anything that we deem as painful.
Krista Tier, welcome to the Thoughts on Purpose podcast. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
My great pleasure. So, ladies and gentlemen, Krista Tier is a business and performance specialist, an energy architect, and a mum. Amazing roles, three incredible roles here on earth. So great to be here with you.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a really juicy conversation.
I think so. I think so. Like, just checking out so much of your content for a couple of months now, I'm sort of very mindful who I follow and whose work I kind of led in my space now. And your work spoke to me time and time again. It continues to do that. And I get excited when I see your posts come up. I genuinely mean that. Like, and that's the case of everyone I have on my podcast. It's actually people, I feel a connection. I'm like, oh, there's something here.
Yeah.
And what I really admire about you is your ability, you cut through the noise. Like, you really cut through the noise. Like, there's so much racket in the personal development space, and you just have an ability to just say things as they are in a really kind of, it's gentle, but it's also brutal. I don't know how you balance both those things, but you do.
Neither do I sometimes.
Yeah, I love it. So really excited for this conversation. So to begin, I want to get to know you, and I want my audience to get to know you. And how I'd love to go about this is if we could imagine that maybe 5-year-old Krista is sitting in a park and the woman you are today walks toward her, you know, having achieved everything you've achieved, having learnt everything you've learnt. What would inspire 5-year-old Krista most about the woman you are today?
Oh my gosh, so much. So much. I think the resilience and, you know, the biggest piece that's dropped in recently is just coming home, not having to be anything that you aren't, not becoming a better version of you, but instead just returning home to who you are in the first place. And that's I believe that that's a really courageous journey, because we accumulate so many facades and titles and things throughout our life, right? Whether it's, you know, programming from our parents or society or partners or whatever the case may be. And I feel like majority of us walk around this life with all of these masks, not truly allowing the world to see the essence of what our heart really is. And that's vulnerable, right? Like, that is so vulnerable. But I think especially over, I would say, the past couple of years, it's been a journey of just coming home.
Yeah. Wow. How do you know you're home, out of curiosity? Like, what is that for you? What is home for you?
Oh, there's just this deep soul knowing.
Yeah.
There's nothing to prove. There's nowhere to be. There's nothing to necessarily achieve, right? Because that's the thing in business. I think that so many of us, and me for a majority of my 15 years in business, was striving for this external thing, right? It was like looking for the thing that was going to give me the feeling, looking for more money or success or validation or significance or whatever it was outside of me. And everything that we want is only for a feeling. Yeah,
True.
it's only to experience a feeling.
True, yeah.
And I realized in the more success that I created, the more that I achieved, the more I still didn't have the feeling. And now I feel like I create, and it's what I do with my clients as well. It's creating business from desire, from soul expression, from truth, as opposed to living in the paradigm of what we should be in order to be loved.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. I love that.
Mm.
That's beautiful. That's so powerful. I can hear, and I love how this conversation kicked off. I can hear someone saying, who's watching this, they're like, but Krista, you don't know where I currently am. I've got bills to pay.
Yeah.
Like, sure, I've got dreams on my heart.
Yeah.
I've got things I want to do. Might be a single parent, cash is tight. How do you go home in that situation?
I feel like here's the thing. I'll tell a little bit of a story if that's okay.
Awesome, please.
So I've been in business since the age of 18, and I had a hair salon, and then I went on to own and operate 3 brick and mortar businesses. And I come from a very entrepreneurial family. My parents owned 9-figure businesses, had 120 staff. I grew up around a very entrepreneurial environment, right? Where my brother and I were by no means spoon fed. We had to work for everything that we created. And that's one thing that I'm so grateful for, is the work ethic that was bred into me. I left a marriage after those 4 businesses. I walked away from a marriage with no money at all, nothing. So I'd built 4, 6, and 7-figure businesses, and I decided it was a choice. I decided to walk away from the marriage with nothing. And I was on a government pension. I had to start all over again. Yeah, all of my hard work and creating all of these successful businesses to make me feel a certain way, and that was all great. But at the end of it, I ended up with nothing. So I was on a government pension, and I noticed that there were these pieces of doubt and, I guess, lack of belief that were coming into play, because I'd experienced what I perceived as this failure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at that stage in my life, I decided to put together all of the threads that got me to these successful or wealthy or abundant places in the past. And what I saw that was most predominant is, at every stage of my journey, I was firstly doing what I was passionate about, right? And those passions, I believe that we are so multifaceted and multi-passionate, and we get to be all of that, and they're interchangeable. But the second thing was, I always had this ability to believe before I could see, right? And no matter what physical evidence was in front of me, I always had the ability to believe that what I wanted was there for me to have. And when I opened my salon, I didn't have any marketing strategy in play. I just knew that I was a great hairdresser. I was a really good hairdresser, and I was really good at nurturing people and connecting with people. And I knew that people would walk away feeling amazing. And I did not have a clue how I was going to get clients, but I trusted and I believed. And I think that, we can be at these stages of our life where there is no physical evidence that we should go and make the investment, that we should go after the dream job, that we should, quit the 9-to-5 job to start our passion.
Yeah.
Right. But if we have unwavering belief that this choice is going to be the catalyst for us to attain it, we would be experiencing a very different reality. Right. So even in that moment, that was easier said than done. My bank account suggested that I had $100 in there. Right. There was nothing. Yeah. And so what I would do every day was I would step into the 7-figure version of Krista, and I would go to the beach, and I would go for a walk. And instead of holding on to what bills I had to pay with, what bills I had to pay next, and what was in my bank account, and, all of these things that were overwhelming to me, instead of focusing on any of that, I would step into that 7-figure version of myself, and I would ask myself, how would she walk? How would she talk? How would she act? What would she believe? What would she be saying to herself? What investment would she make? What actions would she be taking now? And I would be that over and over and over and over again until I attained it. And there was no logical way that, you know, our mind wants to figure out how that logically works, right? It's quantum.
True. Yeah. That is just phenomenal. I love hearing that, and it's I completely resonate with what you're saying. Like, and it actually really excites me hearing you say that. Like, you've been in business longer than me. I think I've been in business for about 12 years now, actually. But hearing like you've done things on a higher level. So you're ahead. You're further along the path than me. So hearing you say that is really comforting, because it's something that I have just found strengthening. I found my certainty when I was completely uncertain. Like, just the ability to say, okay, all I can control is I could just feel like that now if I want to. Like, that's all I've got going for me.
Yeah.
And so I love hearing you say that, because I definitely encourage other people to do that. And it's really cool hearing it come from you.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, how long did it take you to start seeing the results, like when you were practicing that way of being and living like that? Because everyone's journey is different, but for you, what was the time period between, you know, you being really like struggling to actually seeing some progress?
It was quite a short time period, right? Like, I know, and I believe that I'm no different to anyone else. We're fucking powerful,
Yeah.
right? Like, we have the ability to create like that, and it all starts here.
Yeah.
The biggest catalyst was being the embodiment of it, though, right? Like, there was a moment where I was offered to make an investment of $20,000 into a program that was going to teach me how to market and build funnels and understand the digital realm. And what I noticed in that opportunity to invest, the 7-figure version of myself was nowhere to be seen.
Okay.
Right? Because I automatically went back into this, like, oh no, single mom, no, don't have the money, on a government pension. Every excuse came up, and I was like, okay, interesting, because the embodiment is the biggest piece that is going to allow us to manifest everything that we want. So in that moment, I felt all of those pieces and allowed myself to, you know, just rinse it off. And I thought, okay, so the 7-figure version of myself, now what would you do? Okay, you'd make a way out of no way. Okay, I'm in. How do I make it happen? I couldn't apply for finance because I was on a government pension, and I couldn't pay 20 grand because I didn't have 20 grand. So I said, can I do an internal payment plan of $350 a week? I did not know how I was going to pay the $350 a week. Once again, I just believed it. Yeah. I was like, if I make this investment, it's going to turn it around. So when I made that decision, things started happening really fast.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was, honestly, I would say maybe a year until there was significant change. But I feel like the change started happening almost instantaneously because I chose me. I chose the highest version of me as opposed to playing around in my bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. So good. Oh. What about, because I always say to people, there's only so much you can carry with you to the top of the mountain, like that you want to climb. Yeah. And I'm guessing that you had done a lot of work on yourself. Like, how did you, because, you know, we hear a lot about the forgiveness work and all the important stuff, like, and it's fantastic. It's very important, but how did you navigate all that side of things? Because the reason I'm asking this question is because, just to really just cut to the chase, is I see people getting lost in doing the work.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful, but it has its place, but then they get consumed by it to the point where they actually start using it as an excuse.
As a bypass.
Yes. Yeah. A bypass. 1,000%. So how did you know you'd done enough to start embodying it? And I'm asking this so people actually hear it from you.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the thing is, I don't think it's a matter of doing the work and then taking action. You can do both at the same time.
Yeah, true.
You know, like for me personally,
and that's really important. You can do both.
You can do both.
Okay,
It's not like you have to put
right.
your life on hold and then go, oh, I'm in the process. I'm just going
That's what I see. That's really good.
bypass my way out of taking action.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Awesome.
See, I had the action piece down pat.
Yeah.
Right. Like my work ethic is, you know, give me a 14-hour day and I'll slay it. That was the easy piece for me.
Yeah.
Sitting back and allowing myself to be was the challenging part.
Mm.
I've mastered that over the last couple of years. So I feel like I did so much work. You know, I've been exposed to the personal development realm for maybe 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the real work has started in the last maybe year and a half. And it's been soul level work. It's not in the mind. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes the personal development industry can paint a picture of we've always just got to be happy and in state and, you know, pump ourselves up and do the thing. And it's like so in the mind. And I feel like when you start moving from this place of soul, it actually eliminates all of the bullshit and the constructs that are in the personal development industry. There is no room for bypass because there is only truth.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you know the difference between like living on the soul level and what was the other alternative? Was it the mind? Like just.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more operating. There's this cool analogy that I actually use with my clients, and I'll share it because it kind of sums up what it is, you know, in a very easy manner. Uh-huh. But if you visualize an egg, and at the center of the egg is the yolk, and that's our soul, that's our real self, that's our naturalness, like what we're born into this world as.
Yeah.
The white of the egg surrounds it, and it's all about damage that we've accumulated, and none of us are getting out alive, right? Like we've all got damage of some kind. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And then the eggshell is the facade. And the facade is the thing that's it's encapsulating and protecting all of the damage, right? And our facade is based on what we think we should be in order to be loved and accepted, right? And I think that what happens in the personal development industry is there's almost like this facade that is created of what people have to be, as opposed to allowing people to siphon through all of the damage that is there and get back to who they are meant to be, just coming home to self, their true authenticity, right? And their uniqueness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And part of that process, I believe that, you know, I take a lot of, especially my high level clients, I take them through a lot of this work. And when we start cracking down that facade, our damage starts leaking out, right? And then what a lot of people do when they see those parts of themselves that they deem as wrong or dark or their shadow self, they just want to like protect themselves and build that facade up bigger and stronger and, you know, better than ever before to put it all back in.
True.
The magic is in the ability to rinse through our darkness, allow all of our shadows to come to the surface, bring it all to light, see our darkness, face off with it, learn to love it, and then in turn get back to what we're truly here to be. The work doesn't have to be hard, right? It's just a matter of feeling every intricate moment. Yeah.
So great. And like I was saying just before we press record, I love seeing that you're out there coaching other business owners in like with this understanding, like with this level of awareness.
Yeah.
It's super refreshing. Because, you know, I work with athletes, I work with business owners, just on the coaching side, not coaching for business, like it's on the emotional side and all that stuff. And I have like so many people who have they've gone after the thing for the sake of trying to be good enough in quite often in someone else's eyes, not even in their own. It's just trying to prove something. So I love hearing you talk about this. If you're a business owner and say you've been in business for a period of time and you're at a point in your life, you're hearing this conversation and you're like, that's what's missing. And you're just holding it together.
Yeah.
How do you start pivoting? Like, and incorporating, like, would there be something that you would say they could start doing to get started?
Yeah, I feel like I can speak from personal experience because I just reached this point in my life where I was like craving a new depth.
Mm.
It's like I was craving a new depth to what was really here, like more pleasure, more joy, more sensitivity, more innocence, more vulnerability. And it was showing up, and I was craving it in my connections as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, interesting. So what is it that's preventing me from experiencing this? Because the thing is, when we numb ourselves to pain, we also numb ourselves to pleasure, right? So I realized that there was a lot of pain that I actually hadn't allowed myself to feel in totality that was blocking my ability to experience the ecstasy that's available in this life.
Mm.
So I went there. I allowed myself to go there and feel my way through every moment. You know, in this moment, I'm feeling angry. In this moment, I'm feeling happy. In this moment, I feel like my heart's expanding with love. Allow myself to feel that, you know. A lot of us feel that love and we go, oh, that's too scary. I'm going to push it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. In this moment, I'm feeling sad. Okay, I feel hurt right now. Oh, now I feel overwhelmed. The kids are going nuts. Allow myself to feel that overwhelm. Like, that's what we're here to do. Emotions are energy in motion. And the more that we give that energy motion, the easier it passes through, right? But so many of us are like, I feel angry. How do I get rid of that? I feel sad. How do I get rid of that? I'll go and exercise. I'll have a coffee. I'll have a drink of wine. I might have a cigarette, right? We're like constantly trying to bypass anything that we deem as painful.
So good. It was interesting. I was doing a group, like a presentation to a group today, and I was talking about something very similar. And what came to mind, and I got reminded of it as I heard you speak then, was how, as we just repress these little emotions, these little feelings, it's literally like that practice they used to do, the death by 1,000 cuts. Like, it doesn't seem like one by itself doesn't seem like much, but it just compounds, and eventually, you know, that's it.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, for people as they go throughout their day, just to be aware of what's actually showing up and be present with it, as opposed to being so stuck on their agendas for what they think they should be doing,
that
they actually miss out on the experience. And I love what you said about, if you numb yourself to pain, you numb yourself to pleasure. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah. It's a big one.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we live in a society that is so much on autopilot, right? And we're not feeling the beauty and the intricacies and in every moment. And, you know, for me, I arrived at this place where I was like, yeah, okay, got the money, got the car, got the partner, got the kids, got the house. Great. Tick, 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 tick. Why do I still feel empty? I'm still not even fully receiving this.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I would suggest to start there. And I think radical responsibility for everything that is appearing in your life, knowing that you have created all of it. Like, that's where you got to start, because it's easy to outsource. But the thing is, law of attraction isn't like, think happy thoughts and happy things will come. Law of attraction is our soul creating every circumstance, every event, every person that is in our vortex in order for us to heal. And a lot of us look at all of those pieces and go, oh, that's all them. I didn't create that. I didn't ask for that. Well, you did.
True.
Because you weren't willing to heal and feel what is really here that has attracted this circumstance into your life for you. And if we can meet like each and every moment with that level of responsibility, we can reframe and completely unravel what is here for us to learn instantaneously.
So good. And so true. So true. It is like, that is an empowered life.
Yeah.
Like, living like that is empowered. And radical responsibility is such a good term. And I love that you brought this up, because until people do that, like, they are literally giving their power, like, they use the word outsourcing, like, they're outsourcing their power as well. Like, oh, you know, that is more power than I do. And it's just diminishing. I think it's Peter Crone. He says, life sends you people and opportunities to reveal where you are not free. And you just hit the nail on the head there when you shared that. So this is just such a powerful conversation. I'm so grateful you're sharing all of this, because people need to hear this stuff. People need to hear this stuff. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I used to work in, I trained as a medic in the military at a very young age. And I also worked in emergency departments to train for that role. So super young, I was like working in emergency departments, just seeing the real stuff, the real ugly side of life, like the compounding effects of people's decisions. So I got connected with that at a very young age. And when I hear someone like yourself just talking about the importance of taking responsibility, not waiting for life to just, come to a dead end and be like, where you get to a point where you're like, oh my goodness, I do not want to be at this place.
Yeah.
When you're talking about taking responsibility early on, it's so refreshing.
Yeah. And I think it's like, it's so much deeper than even just taking our responsibility in the choices that we make, or taking our responsibility in the part that we play in an argument, but it's honestly there's this interesting, I actually watched this amazing YouTube channel, and he was talking about it in the perfect context. And I'll just share a little bit because I think it's great. He's a vegan and his partner's a vegan, and they went onto an airplane and they ordered their meals ahead of time. And they got on the airplane, and then everyone else on the airplane, they were in economy, and everyone else on the airplane got their food except for him. And he is in this work, like he's deep in this work. And he was like, oh, okay, really interesting. So our automatic response, as humans in that scenario would be like, where's my friggin' meal? Like someone made a mistake. It's everyone else's fault, right? Like blame. Yeah. And instead what he did was like, okay, this is really interesting. I've created this. So I'm just going to allow myself to sink into what is here for me to feel and see how I can completely rearrange this whole scenario. So he put on his headphones, sunk in, and felt all that had to be felt there. And he noticed that there was this piece about being left till last and being forgotten that came up emotionally for him. Wow. Just allowed himself to feel it. And before he knew it, an air hostess came up and put her hand on his shoulder and said, just noticed that you don't have a meal. Like, in an ideal world, what would you like? I'm so sorry you've been forgotten. He's like, well, if we're talking ideal world, I would really love like a bowl of pumpkin soup and a really nice salad. He's like, I know that I'm in economy. That's probably not even possible, but just do your best. Anything is fine as long as it's vegan. She goes up to first class, comes back with a bowl of pumpkin soup and a salad and puts it down in front of him.
That is
so it's like responsibility on that level, right? Yeah. Like, you're creating all of it. How can you feel your way and heal things instantaneously and in the moment so that you can completely rearrange it?
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Oh. How do you, let's begin like when you were building your business, because it sounds to me, your daughter is 7-ish?
She's turning 10 next month.
Oh my goodness. Oh, right. I was way off. I thought I was okay with judging ages, but I'm not. Fail. 10. Oh, okay. That's very exciting. So she was born at, like, you were really kind of in the thick of building business, correct?
Yeah. Yes. So I was married. I was with my ex-husband, Ayana's dad, from the age of 17. We were married when I was 21, and I had her at 22, just before I turned 23.
Wow.
Yes. There was a lot that we faced a lot together. He spent time in prison. We went through 3 years of court. There was all sorts of things that unraveled, and it was all so divine because there was so much strength and resilience that was built from that. So I was pretty much, giving birth to my baby girl, knowing that I was going to be raising her on my own. For at least a period of time. So I definitely attribute that to a lot of my resilience and sort of just like never give up and never give in attitude. But yeah, we were also building business. Wow. There was a lot going on at that time. Yeah.
What? Far out.
Yeah.
How did you juggle that? You know, I'm always curious. We've got 3 kids ourselves, and I'm always curious how other parents, especially entrepreneurs, how they do it.
Totally. Yeah.
How did you navigate that? Do you have some strategies that you love to impart?
I don't believe that you ever know what you're made of until you're dealt with it.
Yeah.
Like, there is no way that I would have consciously been able to have foresight into how I could do that until I didn't have another option. Right. So when I had my baby girl, I had my hair salon. I ended up selling it when she was only a couple of months old. And I was just doing a bit of hair from home for a period of time because we were going through a lot of court stuff. And then when my ex-husband went to prison, I ran 3 businesses and raised her on my own.
Wow.
Yeah. And they were big. Like, they were health cafes. We had huge catering accounts. You know, some mornings I was in there at 3:30 in the morning and I was working until nighttime, and I would tuck her into bed and then get back up at 3:00 and be at work at 3:30. Yeah. It was a lot, and I don't know how I got through it. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I believe that these testing circumstances show us what we're truly made of.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Did you? So would you have pockets of time that you'd designate for her? Is that sort of how you'd?
She came everywhere with me.
Okay, right.
Yeah, she would be. So we had a big cafe on Queen Street in Brisbane, and we'd have a big office area, and I just set it up as a playroom. And she just used to come in and she'd talk to all of the staff, and she'd sit out there and she might watch a movie, and then she'd play, and then she'd toddle on out and talk to me while I was serving customers. Like, it was multitasking at the highest level you have ever seen in your life.
That is incredible. And what an amazing experience for her as well.
Totally. Yeah. She's grown up and around it. Like, yeah.
That's a gift in itself, like such a gift. Especially seeing, and I you know, we chose to have our kids very young as well, and I'm really okay with our kids seeing us, you know, have periods of time where we were doing it tough.
Yeah.
But we got through it.
Yeah.
I love that, how you navigated that, and acknowledging you so much for the way you've been able to do that. Because it seems like you and your daughter, like, again, I'm just observing via social media, of course, but like, it seems like you guys have a beautiful bond.
Very special.
Yeah.
Very special. Yes. She's my very best friend.
That's
we've been through a lot together, and it's created a depth that I never thought imaginable with a daughter. Yeah. It's super special.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, she's always been my biggest driver in everything, you know, and I say it to other people. You can't just tell your kids that you can do and have anything that you want, and you're sitting there doing nothing, right? Go and be the embodiment. That's the biggest legacy that you're going to leave, is who you be, you know. And for me, I can hand on heart say that I have been that for her. You know, I could leave this earth tomorrow knowing that I have given her a wonderful example of what it gets to look like, that women can create whatever they want. They can be fiercely independent, and you know, that there's nothing wrong with hard work and going after your dreams and facing hardship. And yeah, I think the biggest piece is, though, she's seen my willingness to do the work and to heal, and to always take responsibility in the moments that I screw up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, just such a gift you've given her. And you're so right. I would prefer, like, exactly what you said, my kids to see me doing it tough, going after something I love, versus succeeding at something I don't like at all. Exactly. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful what you've done. Krista, do you believe everyone on earth, like, this is a Thoughts on Purpose podcast, do you believe everyone on earth has a purpose?
I love this question. I I don't believe that we have a purpose. I believe that we are the purpose.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Explain that a little further.
Well, I think that once again, so many people are looking outside of themselves to feel something. When I discover that purpose, then I'll feel like I'm enough.
Mm.
But we need to fully sink into the feeling of knowing that we are the purpose, us living, us breathing, us gracing this earth with our presence is the purpose first and foremost, above and beyond anything else. And from that space, then we can create, because where you create from is what you're creating. So if you were creating from a place of needing validation, needing significance, from a place of scarcity, from a place of chaos, you're only creating more of it. But when you've sunk into this knowing that you're the purpose, there's unwavering belief in that, right?
Mm.
Like that's a presence on its own.
It is.
Without anything, without anyone, I am the purpose. So how can I fully embody that and then create from that space?
I love that.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal answer. Wow. You are the purpose. My goodness. Okay, so again, this is what I really admired about you, and the reason why I just wanted to jam with you was because, yeah, like I said, you can just go straight there. Like you've done the work, and even having an insight like that just really says so much about you. So I had one of your posts that stood out for me, like over so many of them. And it was, you wrote, "You won't require boundaries when you heal the part of you that keeps attracting that person or circumstance." Won't require boundaries. So, and boundaries, as we know, it's another thing in personal development. Boundaries.
Yeah.
Walls. Can you explain to everyone listening and watching what you mean by this?
Yeah. So it comes back to this our own law of attraction, right? Our soul is bringing everything, every circumstance, every person into our reality to heal something, right? The more that we heal, the more that we stop attracting the thing that we don't want.
Yeah.
And the way that we heal is by feeling. But what a lot of people do, once again, is they're like, "Oh, I don't like that, boundary. Oh, I don't like that, boundary." Yeah, you created it, right?
True.
And I've noticed from this space, because I was that person, I was like, boundaries, let's build a fortress. I've got so many boundaries with my clients, with my partner, with my family, with my friends, with my children, boundaries everywhere, right?
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm so restricted. But the more that I allowed myself to feel all of these pieces that were coming up that were in turn making me enforce boundaries, I stopped attracting those pieces.
Yes, makes some sense. So how do you then navigate it? Because I can hear someone saying, "Well, Krista, how do I then have a healthy relationship where that person honors my needs and like how do you see a healthy relationship working, or someone who's maybe stepping into the relationship scene?"
Yeah, in like a love relationship dynamic, do you mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that your needs are not being met because there is something that you're not feeling and healing within you.
Yeah.
Like when we feel things in totality, there is no need, right? Like it's all being met all of the time. It is all pleasure.
Yeah.
But it is like, it's a topic. It's a big topic. But I think it's, you know what? I actually think that boundaries are a way to keep people and things at arm's length.
Yeah. Very good.
Instead of allowing us to fully open and surrender to the capacity in which we can love. That's scary.
It is scary. And I can, like, it's pretty clear why people just go straight to the boundaries, because they feel like, okay, yeah, that was wrong. You shouldn't have done that. And it can seem like that. Like it can seem like that is the reality of the experience. But if people just, it takes strength, and everyone's got it within them, but just people don't maybe give themselves the opportunity to connect with that strength enough. enough, and allow themselves to actually say, all right, so I had a part to play in that. In fact, it was all me. Could I go as far to say that? Because, at the end of the day, without you there, that wouldn't have existed in the first place. And these are deep ideas, I know, but
exactly,
that's a scary place to be. That's a scary place to be for a lot of people. And they're like, oh no, boundary.
yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand this from how, like, the conversations I have with people, because I completely agree with what you're saying, like 1,000%. I'm just trying to articulate how people I know might respond to this.
Bypass it is the word.
Bypass it. Yeah. It's a very, very powerful way of living, and it's a freeing way of living, and it's I would question if you didn't do this, would you actually be living?
100%. And this is like, majority of people don't do this. And that's why majority of people are still on autopilot, right?
Yeah.
Not fully opening and receiving what is here for us.
Yes.
Here's a great example. I created in multiple relationships circumstances that were highlighting my abandonment wound that I wasn't willing to see, right? And then in turn, I would opt for relationships that I didn't particularly care about because I wasn't going to be abandoned. Yeah. So our soul's creating all of it. And in majority of circumstances, people would step into like, well, I actually did. I co-created situations with whomever it was that was on the other side that would highlight this abandonment wound. Okay, show up for me, not willing to feel it. Screw you, I'm out, boundary, see you later, I deserve better. Yeah? As opposed to allowing myself to sink into it and fully feel what was here. And this was something that was, that I've carried.
Yes.
That was, generational.
Wow.
And I've carried it. And it's amazing, since I've been able to face off with my abandonment wounds, how I've completely rearranged everything in my life.
So good.
Yeah.
I love that.
So that's what I mean, like responsibility everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Responsibility equals freedom.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
I love that. What are the habits that have impacted you, like the standout habits that have impacted you in living the way you're living now, where you say that you feel at home, the daily practices that you do that allow you to stay home, maybe?
Yeah. I think that I used to be quite rigid with any of my rituals or habits. Like I had like a very masculine approach to it. And I realized that half of what I was doing was from a place of obligation and not desire. So I was like, wow, this is just creating more friction for me, more rigidity. For me personally, especially being a woman, I believe the feminine way of doing things is very different to the masculine way, right? Like it took me to get to the stage of adrenal fatigue on multiple occasions, like complete burnout, for me to have this realization that I couldn't keep doing it in the way that I was, because I had that masculine approach to business. For me, it's my creativity, right? I sing, I dance, I paint, anything that allows me to be in my creative expression allows me to stay with my heart open. Right? Because it's amazing when we attune to this level of sensitivity, we actually feel when we're closing our heart off to the world, because to wander around this lifetime with a completely open heart is scary, right? Especially at first. It's the deepest level of vulnerability that you'll ever experience, especially when you're in a soulmate union, and fully exposing that heart is, there's a lot of shit that comes up as a result. So what I've realized is the more that I rely on my creative expression, the easier it is for me to stay there. And that's not to say it's right for everyone, but I think the thing that a lot of people get to do is figure out what it is for them. Stop looking for advice outside of themselves and attune to what it is that you love. And oftentimes when we look at our childhood, there are little whispers that are there, you know, like I've been a singer from a very young age, and I competed all through my childhood, and I started recording an album, and music has always been my medicine. I was a dancer. I, had a horse. I loved horse riding. I've always loved being at the beach. I've always loved painting and art, and all of those things were within my childhood, and I let go of them as I grew up. Right. And sometimes just returning home to those little intricacies that were there all along, we just forgot, right, allows us to stay in that place of openness.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I guess as a business owner, like hearing this conversation is really conflicting for a lot of people, because, even women in business who are, again, really in the masculine.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, hang on, you're saying go and do the stuff that I love. But, like it's a real conflict for a lot of people. Do you just go in with like, I trust that this is going to work out? Like I trust that everything's going to work out, and I can give myself the time to go and do what I love and still have a successful business? Like, do you just one day pull the plug and make that decision?
100%. And it's really interesting. I think awareness is key. Having awareness of the constructs that we've built around what we have to do in order to get what we want.
Yeah.
Right? Because the paradigm that I lived in was I have to work so hard in order for me to be successful. Yeah, good story, bro.
Yeah.
No. I get to work really intentionally because I feel like we're moving from this state of creation to cultivation, right? I know for me, I can, and that's what I say to my clients. Yeah, I can talk strategy till the cows come home, and I've got some badass strategies that I can give you. That's 20% of the equation, right? I can give you all the strategy in the world, and if you don't have the energy that's backing it, you will not get a result.
So true.
And I've had that proof time and time and time again within my business, right? I've launched something, done everything perfectly curated. The strategy was on point. Mechanically, it was perfection. My energy wasn't in it. It wasn't aligned. It wasn't what I desired to do, right? Sure enough, result, flop.
Yeah. I can resonate with that so much.
Yeah.
So much. Thank you for sharing that. Again, that's why I was so excited for this conversation. You just turn the lights on for people and be like, stop doing that shit.
I just like flip it all on its head.
It's awesome. It's so refreshing. It really is. So refreshing. I want to just like acknowledge you for how you've continually gone after what your soul is telling you to do in your life, despite the challenges. Like every one of the amazing guests I've had on this podcast, like every human, they've faced massive adversity. But the thing that make the incredible guests, yourself included, just be in a place where other people look at you and they're like, wow, I really admire what you've done. I really admire what you're creating and the way you're living, and people feel drawn to you. It's because you've had those challenges like every human being, except you've stayed true to your heart. You've not gotten lost in them. And in fact, you've actually used them to create something greater.
Yeah.
And so I just want to acknowledge you for that. And thank you for being a leader in the space who's showing up with soul and not just trying to cookie cut your content and the information you do like so many people do. So thank you. Krista, how can people connect with you and follow all the amazing goodness you've got going on?
Oh, any social media platform. I'm predominantly on Facebook and Instagram, Krista_Tier. Also my website. It's me on all of them. So I'm the one that's connecting, awesome. Which is really important to me because I feel like there's so many platforms where you want to reach out and it's not actually them. Whereas like it's really important to me to be the one that you're connecting with. So yeah, they're probably the best places.
Brilliant. And what's your website? Is it KristaTier.com?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Krista, I've got one more question for you, and I ask all my guests this.
Yeah.
So I want you to imagine that whoever owns or runs Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, like those big platforms, the big platforms that exist right now.
Yeah.
They called you up and they said, Krista, we're going to delete all these platforms.
Yeah.
But before we do, you've got 1 minute and you're the last person. You drew the long straw, and we've chosen you. And everyone who is ever on those platforms is actually present as you say this. And you get to share the last message before all this stuff gets deleted. What would you share in that 1 minute? What would be your message?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. You know what? I think it would be just so simple. Just follow your truth and you'll find everything that you need.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Follow your truth. And I would second that 1,000%. That's a very, again, as you do, you clear-cut message, straight to the heart of it. If people actually allow themselves to live by, it's game changing.
If we just return home to that truth, we don't need for anything.
It's what you were saying, like the reason I'm just really enjoying this chat is because it speaks to me on so many levels, like the adrenal fatigue, the burnout, like the push, grind. I used to work 22-hour days.
Wow.
When I ran a construction business, sleep 3 hours and continue working, like just when I was renovating restaurants and stuff, like it was horrendous. And so like I get this stuff on a deep level, and I can't explain, like I wish I'd had a coach like you or someone like you in my corner back then, just to be, and obviously I wasn't ready for it then. I had to go on my journey. That's beautiful. But for other people who don't need to go and do maybe what both of us did, when you're hearing this, take it and run with it, apply it. So
it's a magnet. Honestly, that's what it is. Like when we fully, like when we work on who we be from an energy perspective, we become magnetic. Right. And so many people come into my containers and they're like as our clients are, right? They're like an older version of us, or like a previous version of us. And I have so many people come into my containers and they're like, hustle, grind, work ethic, masculine. And I just completely unravel all of it. And they get the best results they've ever received from any coach. And they've done very little action.
Oh, so good. And I know my wife is going to love this chat as well, because it's going to be really special for her because Cassie, my wife, she's fascinated in business and building business as well. So this will be a really refreshing conversation. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. I greatly appreciate you.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.